Welcome to the Eagles Club call. This is a relatively new concept for me. We started talking about this concept of intellecting and sort of coined this term and use it as a verb. And I want to talk about the difference here between intellecting and implementing, because it really is the distinction between success and mediocrity. Implementing or implementation is doing things. We got the little icon there of the little guy running or a little girl running. And intellectation or intellecting is thinking about doing things. So we got the little red icon of the thinker. And the thing is that most people are programmed to be driven by their intellect. I think it's because we have such a fear of being wrong. So our intellect is constantly trying to make us feel smart or make us be actually smart or make us look smart. We don't want to be embarrassed. We don't want to be made fun of. We don't want to be laughed at. We don't want to feel stupid. It's one of the deeper pains that most humans have, is the fear of feeling stupid, or actually feeling stupid is the pain. And so our intellect takes it upon itself to make sure that we don't ever feel stupid and runs the show for most of us. And the reality is, when we are committed to our intellect, we're committed to a resource, or we're committed to this element inside of our brain that is actually not designed to make us happy. It's not designed to help us get our goals. It's not designed to give us fulfillment. It can help with some of those things if it's used properly, but that's not what it's designed for. It's designed to make us feel not stupid. That's basically what the intellect is. And it's designed to help us accumulate information to increase our intelligence, right? Intellect and intelligence are similar words. They have the same root. So when we're driven by our intellect, we're constantly in this computational mode. We're constantly computing whether we are ready, whether we are good enough, whether we are smart enough, whether we have what it takes. We're constantly computing about whether we should take that next step. And there has to be some condition met generally for us to go ahead and take that next step. And those conditions are hardly ever met. And if we do meet the conditions that are required in our brains to take that first or next step, then as soon as we meet those conditions, they are quickly replaced with other conditions, because our intellect never wants to make a mistake. It never wants to take a misstep. It never wants to do the wrong thing. And for entrepreneurs, this becomes a gigantic problem, because the intellect is the way that we operate as employees, but it is impossible to employ our way into entrepreneurial success. The same brain that succeeds as an employee is the brain that fails as an entrepreneur. But because we're programmed to be logical, we're programmed to follow orders, we're programmed to be asked what to do things, we're programmed to ask what to do, because we're programmed in this logical, more of an employee kind of mindset. You tell me what to do, I do the things, I get rewarded some kind of way. It's a A plus B equals C kind of equation. Because we're programmed that way from a very, very early age, including in our schools, then anybody that tries to break free of that has to have a mindset shift. The same mind that works over there doesn't work over here. And so what so many people are doing is they're trying to succeed as an entrepreneur with the mind of an employee, which cannot work. The logical, intellectual mind is driven by protection. It's not driven by growth. It's driven to protect us from dangers. It's driven to protect us from emotion. It's driven to protect us from ever being out of control. It's driven to protect us from vulnerability, from attack, from judgment. It's driven to protect us from anything negative. And success in entrepreneurship requires lots of things negative. Let's just put it that way. I was going to say all things negative, and I don't want to say all things negative, but it requires negative experiences. It requires them, because the things that you have to learn to succeed as an entrepreneur or as a leader in any capacity, the things that you have to learn in order to succeed on that path require adversity. You cannot learn the things that are required without adversity. Our intellect is committed to protect us from adversity. Hopefully this is making sense as to why these two pieces of our brains, well, it's not necessarily pieces of our brains, but why these two modes of our brains are so oppositional to each other, and they just simply cannot be interchanged. You cannot take the employee mindset and succeed as an entrepreneur, nor can you have an entrepreneurial mindset and be happy as an employee. You'll go crazy. You'll feel like you're just restricted. Nobody lets you do what you want to do. The freedom that an entrepreneur is committed to cannot live inside the restriction of an employee. And the restriction, i.e. safety, that an employee is committed to will be shattered as an entrepreneur, will be shattered as a leader. Now, I'm not saying one of these paths is better than the other. Whichever one you choose is absolutely 100% fine according to your prerogative, as long as it's an intentional choice and not a choice out of fear. But what most people are doing is choosing one path and operating as though they're on the other path, choosing one path and expecting it to feel like the other path. So you can't walk down one path and expect to follow the rules of the other one and get the outcomes of the other one. So what most people are doing in any kind of leadership, any kind of entrepreneurial capacity, is they're fully committed to the outcomes of the game, but they're not willing to play by the rules of the game. They want the rules to change because of them. They want the rules to change and acquiesce to their own expectations of safety and comfort. They totally understand that these rules apply to everybody else. They just don't want them to apply to themselves. And so what most people are doing is they're trying to achieve a level of success without playing by the rules. It's never going to happen that way, you guys. Here's my quote when it comes to leadership and entrepreneurialism and success on that road. Do it scared. See, most people think that you got to get rid of being scared before you take action. The reality is nobody has done that. Nobody that I've ever met, ever read about, ever heard about, ever thought about, or ever heard a story about, nobody that I've ever studied, nobody that I know in any capacity has ever gotten rid of their fears first and then taken action toward their dreams and accomplished anything worth a damn. Nobody. And yet that's what almost everybody is expecting themselves to do. And it shows up in our head talk. People go, well, I know I need to make phone calls, but as soon as I go to make a phone call, I get scared. Awesome. That's a requirement. But they use it as though that's an excuse. That's not an excuse to not make the phone call. That's a requirement. And that tells you you're actually doing it the right way, because fear is a requirement on this path. So anything that you do that produces fear is actually a positive sign. It's not a negative sign, but almost everybody uses that as a negative sign. They say, yeah, but as soon as I go to take this action, I start to doubt whether I can do it or not. Awesome. That's a requirement on this path. That's one of the rules of the game on this path. That's not a reason to stop. That's a reason to keep going, but the intellect has convinced us that it's a reason to stop. It's not safe. It's dangerous over here. We can't take that action until we get rid of the fear, until we get rid of the doubt, until we get rid of the worry. That's a gross misunderstanding of two things. what this path requires, but what we are capable of. See, the more that we are committed to our intellect, the less we will ever know what we're capable of. We don't know what we're made of as long as we're committed to stay in this comfort zone that we have. And my God, I think this is one of the biggest tragedies of human life if we don't actually put ourselves in situations where we can find out what we're made of. We can find out who we are. We can touch our humanity. We can learn the lessons that can actually cause us to stretch and grow and become the person that can achieve these goals. Not try to attract these goals. See, what most people are trying to do is they're throwing a fishing line over the wall of their comfort zone and they're trying to hook their goals by the lip and then pull it back over the wall of the comfort zone without changing, without becoming the person that is required, without becoming the person that deserves that goal. They're just trying to bring the goals into the comfort zone without making any uncomfortable change. Good luck with that. If you find me any person that's ever succeeded doing that, please let me know who it is so I can interview him and study him and figure out how this person became the first person in human history to succeed doing that. That's what almost all of us are doing. So don't think that you got to get rid of your fears to take action. Realize that the only way to heal the relationship with your fears is to take action. And also realize that there is no way to get rid of fear, all fear. There are ways to heal your relationship with this fear that you're feeling when you go to expand your current comfort zone. But as soon as you do that, there's going to be more fear. And then there's going to be more fear. And then there's going to be more fear. So instead of trying to figure out how can you get rid of fear when fear is going to be a constant as long as you have ambition in your heart and you've got breath in your lungs, fear will always be on that next step toward your next goal, toward your next dream. Fear will always be on the warning track of your comfort zone, always. The only way to get rid of the fear is to remove ambition from your heart. Is that what we really want to do? Of course not. So don't try to get rid of the fear. Heal your relationship to it. Learn to dance with it. Learn to love it. Learn to embrace the fact that this fear means you're growing and lean in anyway. So do it scared, do it unprepared, and then do it again. If you adopt that mentality, then there really truly is nothing that can stand in your way. So let me make some distinctions here between intellecting and implementing. When we are sitting here intellecting, we are creating tons of doubt. We're creating worry. We're creating all these judgments, and we're afraid of other judgments. We're creating comparisons. We're comparing ourselves to other people. We're comparing ourselves to our expectations of what it's supposed to be like. None of those are going to inspire us. Almost none of us, at least. We're stagnated, if that's a word. We're creating stagnation. We are in a state of overwhelm because our intellect is coming up with all these possible dangers. And what we're afraid of is losing something. Our intellect is always afraid of loss. We're afraid of losing money. We're afraid of losing time. We're afraid of wasting time. We're afraid of losing favor from other people. We're afraid of losing approval. We're afraid of losing certainty. We're afraid of losing safety. We're afraid of losing these things. And the intellect is really good at scaring the crap out of us when it comes to all the things that we might lose. That's the cycle of intellecting that so many people are caught up in. But if we take a look at implementing, which is simply taking action, what happens with action? You get in motion, something happens, your motion produces some kind of an outcome, and that outcome will provide you feedback. That's the only way to collect data. That's the only way to get information. And what happens is the more that you do that, the more momentum you build, the quicker you get the feedback, the more you put it in motion, the quicker you learn the lessons, the quicker you get to your goal. That actually creates a lot more energy in your body, a lot more energy in your mind. You get the answers that you're searching for. And when you're implementing, what you're really driven by is still a fear, but it's a fundamentally different kind of fear. This fear is the fear of regret. See, the intellect is afraid of taking action and having something bad happen, The heart is afraid of not taking action and having something bad happen. And the something bad happening when you don't take action is regret over not ever finding out what you're made of, not ever achieving the things that you're here to achieve on this planet during this lifetime. That's regret. And I'm sure you've heard this from different people, different versions of it. Almost all studies or conversations or books that I've read or heard of that talk to people in the later phases of their life, when they look back on their life and they assess, pretty much everybody says the biggest regrets are the actions they did not take because they didn't know what they could have accomplished. Almost nobody looks back and regrets actions that they did take, even if it produces outcomes that they didn't like, because that's a different level of negativity. The negativity, the weight of regret is so deep. It's felt in our soul. And most people are way more driven by the fear of regret than the fear of loss or the fear of failure or the fear of rejection. But most people's intellect is on too high. The volume of the intellect is on so high that it overpowers the fear of regret. So these are the two paths, and you just have to choose which one you're going to be more committed to, because all those words on the left side there under intellecting, pretty much all those words are reasons for people to stop. And they should actually be reasons for you to go. When you are intellecting, you're in a state of reaction. Your whole body of mind, energy, physiology, everything, your whole being is really operating in reaction mode. When you're implementing, you're in creation mode. And creation mode actually taps into a deeper resource of brilliance, courage, bravery, certainty, confidence, all these things that we're wanting. Creation taps into those. Intellect does not have access to those things. Your intellect will never tap you into those things. Your intellect will never get you connected to the things that are required to bust through the barriers that are in our way. Never. The best it can do is step around them. The best it can do is try to find this safe path. There is no such thing as an intellectually safe path to a goal or a dream, a big goal or a dream. I'm going to take goal out of that. Let me say that again. There is no such thing as an intellectually safe path to your dreams. No such thing. So when you find yourself on an intellectually dangerous path, get excited, because that might be leading you to your dreams. And if you find yourself on an intellectually safe path, become concerned, because that will never lead you to your dreams. So if you like that video, click right there to listen to the whole conversation. This entrepreneurial mind is everything. You're going to love it. But we're programmed constantly by the media, by our parents, by our mentors, to be afraid of losing, to be afraid of missing out, being the outcast.